It's all about the Bears at the moment. It's time for Know Your Opponent.
All about knowing your opponent, all about knowing what's going on with the Chicago Bears and what's happening with this team. And also, maybe some areas the Niners can attack this team, go after this team, make Justin Fields struggle a little bit. Are there players missing? Is, their disarray with this organization and with Matt Nagy, and that could play in the 49ers' favor? I don't want to, say with certainty yes or no, but we do have a gentleman here to discuss it from the Barroom Network, and this is it's going to be a good conversation.
Yes, I'm very much looking forward to this. The Barroom Network does a lot of great work. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. But this is going to be an absolutely great conversation. I'm looking forward to getting in depth. They know the Bears. They know the Bears inside and out. And they're going to be able to share all that information with us. And I'm looking forward to talking to all.
Absolutely looking forward to talking with Aldo. And matter of fact, I think he's here. I think he's ready to go. Let's do this. And now it's time from the Barroom Sports Network. I was on there just a few days ago, and now we got a member here, Mr. Aldo Gandia. How are you doing, sir? How's everything going?
I am well, Aldo Gandia. And let me tell you something, Alex. You were a great guest on Buffon 55. You gave us a fantastic rundown of the entire 49ers team. I hope I can do half as well as you did.
You're going to be fine.
I have full confidence. Yeah.
100%. 100%. So look, there's a lot of things going on with this Bears football team. 49ers fans have been, wondering what's going on with the Bears. How good of an opportunity do we have to maybe get back on track here? What's going on with Kahlil Mack? What's going on with Mr. Robert Quinn? Are both of these guys going to be available heading into Sunday? And if they're not, is this an area the 49ers can attack and maybe get their run game consistency going?
Yeah, this is a football team in disarray right now. Not only has the offense been among the worst, certainly the worst passing offense in the NFL, but now the strain of a poor offense is starting to show on the defense, as it has year after year after year here in Chicago. And so the defense is out there for a lot of plays. Guys like Kahlil Mack are being double teamed or chipped and so forth. And that's just really wearing down his body. It's unlikely he's going to play on Sunday. Now, Matt Nagy basically said, yeah, we still haven't made a decision on that, but the NFL media has kind of reported that they're actually even thinking about shutting him down for a few weeks. And I would tend to believe that more because it seems like everything that comes out of the mouth of head coach Matt Nagy is a canard of some sort. So, and Robert Quinn has had an outstanding season. He divulged that he was having personal problems last year, and so his head wasn't totally in the game. He spent the season seeking counseling and getting some help, and he has come to the Chicago Bears this season fully ready to play and has done a fabulous job. The issue is, of course, is that he is on the COVID list, and whether he is going to test positively or negatively, we won't know probably until game time. So there's a very good chance that both of the premier pass rushers of the Chicago Bears and two of the best in the NFC will not be playing for the Bears. And so that's going to be a great opportunity to give your quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, plenty of time to throw the ball, because without those guys there, it's going to be really, really tough for this team to generate a pass rush. New defensive coordinator Sean Desai, a disciple of Vic Fangio. He was here when Fangio was the defensive coordinator, and Fangio wanted to take him to Denver, but the Bears denied him that opportunity. Well, he's the new defensive coordinator. He's done a fabulous job, much better than Chuck Pagano did the last two seasons here with the Bears in terms of scheming people and getting them good matchups to rush the quarterback. And I also think Mike Pettin, who was acquired from the Green Bay Packers, has really helped in that regard too. So we'll see if they are without Quinn and without Mack. We'll see what Sean Desai and Mike Pettin have up their sleeves. But I don't have a lot of hope that they have the personnel to really generate much of a pass rush.
Yeah, and you got, another injury on the inside with Hicks, right? He's also dealing with something. I seen that he was limited in practice. I'm wondering if the 49ers will be able to get the run game going against this defense. With Quinn and Mack possibly out and not able to set the edge, the 49ers like to run the outside zone. My thought process was they were going to bring 5 guys to the line of scrimmage, in your 3-4 defense, and really make it hard for that outside zone to go. But Jimmy Garoppolo is extremely successful when he's running play action pass, so they have to establish a run game. Do you think the Bears can limit this run game? Can Roquan Smith help limit this run game and stop the 49ers from being able to put Jimmy Garoppolo in good situations to end up executing down the field?
Yeah, Roquan Smith is one of the best sideline to sideline linebackers in the NFL. So he can probably have some success against the team, but I am concerned about the line of scrimmage. Akeem Hicks, when I was at the game in Cleveland and I saw him, we were seated behind the Bears bench, and I saw him walk off the field a number of times. It was obvious that his groin was bothering him back then. I think the report was that on the very first play of the game in Cleveland is where he hurt it, and it just has not been the same since. He re-aggravated it on a sack a week later, and so his effectiveness has been hampered by this groin injury. So even if he plays, I don't think he's going to be the Akeem Hicks that offensive linemen fear and respect. There are some good people on the Bears defensive line who can get pressure in the backfield and help stop the running game. Eddie Goldman is one. Eddie Goldman is an outstanding nose tackle, but he's been plagued with some mysterious ailments. He sat out last year's season because of COVID concerns, and now this season he's missed some time because of an injury and so forth. And the limited action that he's had, he's been effective, but he hasn't seen many snaps. So that's a question. Bilal Nichols, another interior defensive lineman, had a fabulous season last year, and I thought he was on the verge of a breakout season this season, but we haven't seen that from Bilal. The other inside linebacker that's been starting in place of Danny Trevathan, and Danny Trevathan is back, but Alec Ogletree is getting the majority of the snaps. He's played fairly well, so he's had some success also going sideline to sideline and tracking down the run game and so forth. I think almost it's just like Alex said to us yesterday when he was on the Buffon 55 show, the biggest success that the Bears could see in running the ball is running it up the middle. And that's the same thing I could potentially see in the 49ers running the ball more up the middle than sideline to sideline.
That's very interesting. That's an area that both teams can try and attack, because there's obviously questions with the 49ers interior with the injuries that they've had. But there's also questions about this Bears offense and consistency and what's going on. And, I've listened to a lot of what was going on the Buffon show and what they've been talking about for the past few weeks and in preparation leading up to me being on. And there's a lot of frustration with Matt Nagy. There is a ton of frustration with Matt Nagy, and it's very funny. The 49ers and the Bears are in very similar boats with the fan base right now and the head coach. It's been a lot longer with Matt Nagy and what's been going on. Specifically, what is it about his scheme, what the offense has done or not done that's driving Bears fans up a wall? And then, for the 49ers fans, it's only really been a year of struggle with a healthy offense that you've seen this. Based on what you've been hearing about the 49ers and the struggles, do you think how are you feeling about the criticism of Kyle Shanahan and what's been going on there? And is there anything to glean off of the situation you guys have dealt with Matt Nagy?
Yeah, frankly, I feel the criticism towards Kyle Shanahan is not fair. And I think you really gave a great response yesterday, Alex. And when you talked about execution, there being a lack of player execution, so many times fans can attribute mistakes by a football team to the play calling, to the scheme and so forth. But I'm of the school that even if it's a bad play call, there are a lot of times great execution can outweigh a bad call. And so I see that a lot in Chicago, but I also see terrible play calling, particularly when Matt Nagy was calling the plays. Now, he has given them up. He's fired himself twice now as the offensive play caller. He did it last season. Bill Lazor, the former Cincinnati Bengals offensive coordinator, took over that job and had some success because he paid more attention to the run game. Matt Nagy famously said, or infamously said last season, I wasn't brought here to run the I formation. Well, the problem, Matt Nagy, is because the passing game is so putrid. The I formation was about the only thing that was working last season, and so this season we're seeing an outstanding rushing attack, and a lot of that has to do with Bill Lazor and the assistant coaches and insisting that that's the strength of the team and that's what you should be doing, particularly now that you have a rookie quarterback who is still not adept at picking up blitzes. He still holds on to the ball a little bit too long, still needs that extra second to see where the windows are in the passing. He's just not ready to assume the entirety of the offensive package that Matt Nagy would like him to run. And in fact, I've been speculating, and I got it on good word that my speculation might be correct, is that Matt Nagy did not want Justin Fields to play the starting quarterback role this season because he knew that Justin was going to take some time to get ready, particularly because he didn't have starter snaps in preseason. Andy Dalton had them all. So you didn't prepare Justin Fields well enough for him to go in there and be the starter. But he has been announced the starter for the rest of the season after the terrible loss at Cleveland, the embarrassing loss at Cleveland. There was a team meeting. Ryan Pace, the general manager, was involved. All of the assistant coaches, all of the important decision makers were a part of that meeting. And what resulted out of that meeting was that Justin Fields was named the starter for the rest of the season. A lot of fans applauded that. But the problem is that he wasn't prepared to be the starter. So it is a train wreck of sorts with what's going on here. It's just bad decision making. And I go back to Ryan Pace. He just doesn't have the vision to develop a football team. We haven't had a general manager here for decades who just doesn't get that this is my vision, and now I'm going to go about executing it. What we are seeing are always Band-Aid approaches to filling out the roster. You know, you're drafting your second quarterback in the first round of this decade. When you do that, you know you got a big problem, right? And you draft certain position players. Adam Shaheen is a perfect example. The tight end from Ashland University, you draft him in the second round, and now you're forced to draft another tight end in the second round, Cole Kmet. So you're correcting your mistakes, and you've only been here for 5-6 seasons. It's just a mess. There's no vision, and the execution is spotty at best.
I think it's interesting listening to you talk about Justin Fields and Matt Nagy and that situation with the quarterback. I think it is equivalent to what was going on in San Francisco in the fact that we had Jimmy Garoppolo and, you had to sign Andy Dalton. But the idea of getting that veteran quarterback to be able to have you at least compete until the rookie was able to get going. Now, Kyle Shanahan is sticking to his guns and absolutely saying Trey Lance is not ready to start. The only reason he started at Arizona is because of the injury. But I find it fascinating that you have, Nagy that has kind of been forced to put him out there, and then Kyle Shanahan just holding on. Do you think that is the correct approach? I'm curious because you see it with Justin Fields. Do you think it's the correct approach to make sure Trey Lance waits and then get him in when he is perfectly ready? Or do you think it's better to learn on the go like Justin Fields is learning right now?
We had a mock draft during the offseason, and well, let me back up a little bit. We had an entire season of shows called Draft on Tap, where Danny Shimon and Neil Stopchinski, two guys who have earned dollars, doing actual scouting. And throughout the NFL season and up to the draft, they were giving us weekly reports on all of the players that were available. And then at the final show during draft week, I played the general manager. They gave me input, and I got to make the decision as to who should be drafted. Well, we had all agreed that we're going to do whatever possible to draft a quarterback. We need a franchise quarterback. And so when it came down to the decision, I had the choice between Trey Lance and Mac Jones, and I picked Trey Lance. And they thought that I was going to pick Mac Jones because their scouting report on Mac Jones was better. He was a better quarterback, not a better quarterback, so to speak, but he was ready to start immediately, and that Trey wasn't. But I said the upside of Trey Lance is just so tremendous that you just can't bypass that. You can't pass that up. And I realized that we had Mitchell Trubisky last year, or the last first round draft pick, and so we're almost making the same mistake. But I love what Trey Lance could potentially be. And I think that Kyle Shanahan is doing an excellent job of bringing him along slowly. There's no rush for Trey Lance to come in here. It's just smarter to give him the clipboard, let him learn, let him run the scout team, let him be the backup quarterback. And then in 2022, it's his team. It's his team. And that's what I would have liked to have seen with Justin Fields, given that he didn't have first team snaps with the Bears during preseason and OTAs and all that stuff.
I mean, I think that's 100% fair. I think that's kind of why we're in the position we're in. We knew that Jimmy was kind of the guy. He got most of the first team reps. Trey wasn't getting first team reps. And it's like, okay, so the plan is Jimmy, Trey is there in case something happens. And if Jimmy's healthy and good to go, then that's the guy we're rolling with. So it is a very interesting dynamic, but it's not the only dynamic that these two teams share, like right now with what's going on. The head coaching situation, the fans upset there. Obviously, the quarterback situation, obvious. But you guys have a very talented wide receiver in Allen Robinson. And the 49ers have a very talented young wide receiver in Brandon Aiyuk, both of which are struggling mightily this year. We talked a little bit about it on the Phone 55 and what I think is going on with Brandon Aiyuk. What's going on with Allen Robinson in this offense? Is he not being utilized properly? Is Justin Fields just not finding him? Or is there something else going on with Allen Robinson?
Well, he was franchised last year, and he's the type of guy that's going to play hard, but he is nursing a tender ankle. And so from time to time, I've seen him this season not run out blocking plays as hard as he has in the past. I don't think that has anything to do with the fact that he's playing under the franchise tag. I just think that he's nursing an ankle. He hasn't had much practice during the week. And so that's what leads me to believe that it's more of a injury issue than it is him disinterested or just being petulant in any way. The other issue is that because Justin Fields saw limited time with the ones, he and A-Rob didn't establish any chemistry whatsoever. And in fact, A-Rob himself said that in a press conference earlier this week. He was asked about, the lack of chemistry and the lack of targets. He had 4 targets last week, and you would imagine that he would have had triple that amount, particularly down 35 points in the first half. So, so it has a lot to do with Justin not being comfortable with him. And it's interesting that he's had much more success with Darnell Mooney, the second-year wide receiver. And that's because Mooney and Justin Fields have been good, have established a really tight relationship in OTAs, and they stay after practice and catch the ball and so forth. And so they've established a better relationship. And so I just think it's going to take time. There's 10 games left. I would not be surprised at all if A-Rob has a streak of several games where he's catching near double-digit passes, if not double-digit.
Yeah, you brought up Darnell Mooney, and he was one of the guys that I really looked at in coming out of that draft. I liked his ability. But talk about the rest of that, that wide receiver room and how they're going to be able to execute, because the 49ers have had so many questions in the secondary with the corners, all the pass interference calls. Are Mooney, Goodwin, Perryman, are those guys going to be able to get, or is it Perryman?
I think it's Rashad Perryman.
Yes. Yeah. Are they going to be able to cause problems for the 49ers secondary?
No. Plain and simple, no. And in fact, Rashad Perriman has not been active for any of the games. He was brought in as kind of a backup to the 2 other speedsters on this roster. Everybody was at Hallis Hall, the headquarters for the Chicago Bears. Everybody was excited and talking about the Demir Bird and Marquise Goodwin and all the speed that they brought and so forth. And so there was a commitment by the Chicago Bears to really dedicate themselves to improve the speed. So they brought these 3 speedsters in, and they're hardly seeing the ball at all. And in fact, they're not even taking shots downfield with these guys. You would think that, let's make it a go. between those two guys that are active, let's get 3 deep passes, to these guys. But that's not what's happening now. Part of the reason for that is because the offensive line has been so putrid. They've had injury issues, and so pass protection has been terrible. They've done a good job at run blocking, and credit Juan Castillo for that, because the one thing that the offensive line coach Juan Castillo has brought to this team is he's brought that kind of mean streak back to his offensive linemen, and in fact, he insisted that they draft Tevin Jenkins and Larry Barroom, because those are the kind of mean streak tackles, and he wanted those kinds of players, as opposed to Charles Leno, who was at left tackle for the Bears for 6 seasons and was much more docile in his approach to the game. So they increased they tried to increase the edge to the offensive linemen, but it really hasn't done anything to help with the pass blocking, particularly given the injuries that Borum and Jenkins have faced. So the Bears were very, very lucky to find Jason Peters fishing somewhere and bringing him in, and he's been at the left tackle, and he is played spotty. He's great at pancaking guys on the run game, but his pass blocking and blocking at the second level of the run game is not very effective.
And that could spell some problems over there at the left tackle spot, because it's where Bosa loves playing. They love running him off of that left edge over there in space. Do you foresee this being a problem? Bosa's presence and what he's been able to do, what Eric Armstead has done both on the outside and run fits and on the interior as a pass rusher. I mean, he's been putting up him and Bosa are top 4 or 5 in the league in terms of just pressures on the quarterback and hits on the quarterback. Do you foresee this being an area that the 49ers defensively, right, with this D line on pass downs, can attack and get after Justin Fields? Do you think the Niners even need to bring pressure? Do you think they can just get home with those front 4 and call it a day?
No need to blitz. I mean, Todd Bowles with the Bucs, he blitzed effectively, but I almost think that it's because Todd Bowles just loves to blitz more so than he really needed to blitz.
He does. He does like his blitzes.
So, but I truly believe, Peters just has problem with speed, power rushers, and so he's going to have a tough time. And what the Bears are going to do, they're going to chip. They're going to help Peters and the right tackle, whoever that might be. They're going to help them with tight end help and chipping and so forth, and that's going to further impact the passing game, because you're only going to be sending a couple of guys out on pass routes, and that's part of the dilemma that the Chicago Bears have been facing. So, if I was the defensive coordinator for San Francisco 49ers, I would say, guys, I am really, really confident that you don't need any help. Let's just disguise, some blitzes from time to time to rattle the kid. But for the most part, you're going to get pressure, you're going to get hurries, and you're going to get sacks with a 4-man rush.
Yeah, that was pretty much what I think a lot of the keys for the 49ers have been. It was confusing Justin Fields, getting in there and disguising things. And the fact that the 49ers have played against Kyler Murray and against Russell Wilson and had some success confusing them, is that going to be something that's really easy? Are they going to be able to confuse Justin Fields? I know he's a rookie and he's trying to process so much information at one time. Do they have to do a whole lot, or can they just do real simple, disguises to confuse him?
Well, the thing about Justin is that he is, and I think this is why a lot of people liked him coming out of Ohio State, is he is a student of the game. He's very, very smart. But there is no doubt that he hasn't caught up to the game yet, and it's going to take a while. I don't think that you need to do many exotic things. I think he's going to, if you hit him a couple times, unfortunately, he's at a point right now where he's starting to show signs of getting gun shy because of the amount of times he's been hit. In that Tampa Bay game, his accuracy was the worst that it's been all season long. And that had to do with the fact that even when he was identifying blitzes coming, the offensive line failed to pick things up. Bill Lazor, the offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears, talked about that at today's press conference when a reporter tried to cast blame on Justin Fields for missing some blitz pickups. And Lazor said, the one preseason game that Justin against the Buffalo Bills where Justin had his helmet knocked off and it was on everyone's highlight special. He goes, that's really the last time that I have seen Justin Fields not identify a blitz. Other than that, he may have been a little late to identify some blitzes, but I think that he's identified them all. So he's getting better at that. But the issue is that the game is still a little too fast for him. And I think that talent will win out here. And I think that the talent is on the 49ers defensive side of the football.
I mean, yeah, especially with all the injuries on offense right now for this 49ers team. No George Kittle, questions about Trent Williams and if he's going to be available and ready to go. And obviously the Raheem Mostert injury, all that plays a role as well. And, ironically enough, you guys also do have an injury there at the running back room with David Montgomery. He was really starting to get going and really starting to roll. Then Darrell Williams gets on, I think it was the COVID list. You end up having to roll with the young guy in Kahlil Herbert. What have you seen out of him? What do you like from Kahlil Herbert? And is this a guy that could potentially be the future running back in Chicago, or are they going to be sticking around with David Montgomery for a little while?
Well, I think Montgomery has one more 2019, 2020. I think Montgomery has one more year on his contract. So he'll be with the team through the end of next season. And you know how disposable running backs are now. So I wouldn't be surprised if David Montgomery was not re-signed, particularly because the Bears will likely be in a salary cap crunch. So unless they can get him on a good deal, David Montgomery will probably not be a Chicago Bear in the 2023 season. So that means Kahlil Herbert is the heir apparent. And it would be great for Chicago Bears fans if we could have both of those guys because they're both outstanding backs. What Kahlil Herbert has done in the short time that he has played, he has displayed just an outstanding ability to cut back and see the hole and runs with force. He carries tacklers for yards, and that's what you need on a team whose blocking is subpar at times. So he also has displayed the ability to catch the ball, which was the biggest question mark for him coming out of college because he didn't catch a lot of passes there, but he's obviously a proficient pass catcher. I think this guy could be a top of tier 2, low tier. No, I wouldn't say low tier 1, but a top tier 2 running back in the NFL, and that's a pretty good ranking in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I think that is impressive. I'm curious to see, how the running backs really do against this 49ers defense, who have kind of struggled a little bit with the run fits all season long. But how do you see this game going? I want to get your opinion on how you see this game going and, who ultimately comes out with the big win. Both teams are, in the midst of it, but, they're both spiraling a little bit. Can somebody figure it out? Can somebody get over the hump and get going in the right direction?
Yeah, I truly believe that this Chicago Bears team right now is in one of the worst spots it's been in recent memory. And that's saying a lot, given that we came off the Tressman years and the John Fox years and so forth. But there just seems to be a dark cloud over Halas Hall right now. They've had so many COVID issues this week. They don't know if even Matt Nagy is going to be on the sidelines on Sunday. I just, prior to coming on with you guys, I listened to the press conferences from the coordinators and the special teams coach, Chris Tabor. He was unable to answer some simple questions like, what will the Saturday night meeting look like if Matt Nagy is not there? Well, we haven't talked about that yet. So I just think because of all of the COVID restrictions and the fact that Matt Nagy is not even at Halas Hall, he's just joining the team in Zoom meetings, and all of the meetings have been in Zoom meetings, that this team is going to be ill-prepared to go out there and play at the top of their game. And when you add in that Khalil Mack is highly likely not to play, to me, it points to a San Francisco 49ers, an easy victory for them. They should win by 12 plus points.
Done. Yeah. Okay. I mean, every 49ers fan watching this right now, the Cutback crew is absolutely losing it. They're getting hype about this, and as they should be. We've been saying this for weeks. This team is just a few few execution pieces away from having it figured out, and a depleted Bears team that's missing key pieces could open the door to them finding their groove and finding their rhythm and getting themselves going in the right direction. It's unfortunate that it's against a non 100% Bears team, because I think we would both, I know myself and Ant would both feel better about where this team's going. But at this point, with the way the season has gone,
we'll take it.
I'll take it.
Yeah. We'll take any hope at this point.
Absolutely. Winning ugly is a lot better than losing pretty. There's no doubt about it.
I agree 100%.
No truer words have been spoken on this podcast, and that is for sure. Aldo, let everyone know where they can find you, the Barroom Network, and all your guys' content.
Great. Thank you for that. You can follow me on Twitter at Barroom Network. And if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll see that we offer almost 20 shows, currently almost 20 different shows. About half of them are dedicated to the Chicago Bears, but we also cover the Chicago Bulls, the Chicago Blackhawks, the Cubs and White Sox, and we do some entertainment programming too. It's a large podcast network with diverse guests and hosts and production teams. And we just love communicating via video and audio. And so it's a passion project for most of us because we're not making any money. So it's a passion project. But I think that if you sit down and watch any of our program, you'll see that passion come through. And I think Alex was witness to that yesterday with his interaction with John Buffon and Alyssa Barbieri.
Both of them. I mean, the passion is through the roof. John has enough passion for everyone. And some people in the Cutback crew would be like, Alex, you can't say that. You're a pretty passionate fella. I don't know, man. John was definitely taking me to the ringer there. I absolutely loved it. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah.
And I know I enjoyed this today. This was a lot of fun.
Quick story about John is John's uncle, Doug Buffon, played 15 seasons with the Chicago Bears at the outside linebacker position. He was Dick Butkus's partner in crime. And so when I saw Buffon's name on Twitter, this was 6 years ago, I wondered if this guy, he's in broadcast, and Doug Buffon, after he finished playing for the Chicago Bears, he went into broadcast. I wonder if John Buffon is related to Doug. So I reached out to him. He goes, yeah, I am. And I go, hey, would you like to do a podcast on the Bears? Yeah, sure. And so little did I know that I was going to get a guy who was studying or training to become a professional boxer. So he's in the gym all the time, but also he is always working out when he talks because the veins are bulging from his neck.
100%. Yes.
He is just a joy to follow, and he always kids himself. I wish I was more analytical about the game, but I'm just like my uncle. I just love to just rear back and let the Chicago Bears organization, how they're screwing up another fall for us.
Honesty, man, it's on point. It's 100%. This was absolutely incredible. Thank you again for taking the time out. We enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck. Bye-bye.
That was a great conversation, Alex. I really enjoyed it. Aldo's very knowledgeable about the Chicago Bears, and I thought he brought a lot of insight, and I really liked all the conversation. It was great. Oh,
enjoyed the conversation, and the Cutback crew enjoying a lot of things over there as well, and I like it. Oh, look at that. Don, don't have to worry about it. Look, this was a lot of fun. It was a great convo with Aldo about this Bears team, strengths, weaknesses, and similarities, because these are two teams right now that they truly are on a very similar trajectory in terms of what's going on, the frustration mounting with coaching staff decisions and things of that nature. Aldo shares a very similar view of what Kyle's done here, though, as we share, which is, this team was just in a Super Bowl. It seems that there's opportunities and guys open and, ability to make plays. Maybe guys just aren't executing, and we've been saying this and we'll keep saying this, right?
Yeah.
If there's opportunities to make plays and guys just aren't making plays, then it's not really the play call or the scheme that's not working. It's the execution. And if you want to get on Kyle Shanahan for guys not executing, understandable. But it seems for the Bears, it's consistent. It's consistent lack of execution. It's consistent lack of guys not being able to do certain things. And he talked about a lack of direction, them drafting multiple players at the same position, 2 tight ends in consecutive years, quarterbacks, two first-round quarterbacks in less than 10 years, trying to find the right pieces. And it seems like they're making a lot of mistakes and having to try and correct them quickly in order to keep this team in the right direction, keep them on track. The 49ers definitely haven't done that yet.
No, I mean, not to that level. I think they had to replace Reuben Foster,
yes.
If you want to say they replaced Solomon Thomas with Nick Bosa, maybe those are the two. But how many times do you pick number 2 overall? Those are situations you're going to take the best available player. I can tell you this: if Solomon Thomas would have been playing up to snuff, they still would have drafted Nick Bosa with that 2nd overall pick. He's just that good. So it wasn't to replace him. It was just that he's that dynamic of a player. But you're right that they haven't had this sort of problems in the front office so far. It's still been strategic. It feels like everything is still together from John Lynch to Kyle Shanahan. Or over there, it feels like there's a little bit more of things breaking up. What I love is the outside perspective, how everyone views the 49ers from afar, how they view Kyle Shanahan, how they view this organization, and the view of how he's going to be taking care of Trey Lance, or how Kyle Shanahan should take care of Trey Lance from somebody that's seeing Justin out there playing right now, learning trial by fire. So maybe somebody can look at that and say, you know what, Kyle Shanahan sticking to his guns is a good thing. I know that's what we've been saying.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that Trey is growing at the right level, and now you get to hear it straight from somebody that sees it from the other perspective.
And there's a lot of people in the Barroom Network, and a lot of them, I interacted with 2 of them the other day, and they felt very similarly about this situation. Matt Nagy, it seemed like, wanted to go the route of let Justin Fields grow and develop. Front office doesn't agree. They don't share the same view, and so you have 2 basically controlling entities viewing a quarterback's development differently. And the one that's closer to the president is going to be the one that makes the call and makes the decision, right? The owner of the team is going to be able to pull the trigger on what's final and what happens. And they've made the move and gone with the young man, even though it's not something the head coach wants. There's not that kind of separation in San Francisco.
No.
Front office, GM, owner, top to bottom, there's consistency throughout. So anyone talking about how, there's trouble brewing, trouble starts at the top. It doesn't start at the bottom with the players. It starts at the top and trickles its way down through the organization until it eventually impacts and affects the players. Seems like it's starting at the top, has worked its way down, and now you have a coach that's not on the same page with ownership, GM, and that spells trouble. That spells problems, and the fans there in Chicago, they can definitely smell it, and Aldo basically confirmed as much.
I'm very appreciative of Aldo giving us these hopes, too, that the 49ers are going to go in there and handle business.
12-plus.
A 12-plus win would be great, because I thought the 49ers are going to win 24-10. So I'm with him on this. I'm feeling good about that prediction. I'm feeling good about the 49ers winning. And I think all the things that we've been talking about, the key matchups for the 49ers, those key matchups are real. Now, the real question is Mack going to play? He doesn't think Mack's going to play. Will it be Big Mac versus Big Mick? We don't know. But either way, somebody's coming to America. I'm just kidding. I just had to throw that out there just in case no one got it. It's the sesame seed buns. Sesame seeds.
Totally the sesame
seeds. Totally
seeds.
Different. They got the Big Mac. We got the Big Mick.
The Big Mick.
But yeah, no, it's fun. I'm curious to see how this all plays out. If they don't have Robert Quinn and Kahlil Mack, though, that will be a huge blow to them. He's right though about Ogletree and Roquan Smith. Both of them can run sideline to sideline.
True.
So can Danny Trevathan. So those guys in the interior of that defense are going to be asked to do a lot. But not having those 2 guys outside linebackers to set the edge, the 49ers should be able to execute this run game and get outside zone and inside zone pretty good. And even some gap scheme, get those guys flowing away from it, come back with the counters like they were doing last week. There is going to be potential for the 49ers to get this run game going, which means Jimmy Garoppolo, play action pass, being able to strike, taking advantage of those linebackers being aggressive, and then hitting Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, and those guys behind those backers.
Finding the open receivers, that's going to be the key for Jimmy this week.
It is a key.
He is going to be trying to put his best foot forward, because Kyle called it last week. We watched some of the film and agree that was possibly Jimmy's worst game in San Francisco.
Yes.
It would be preferable here if Jimmy bounced back with one of his best games that he's ever played.
In front of his family.
In front of his family, right? In a place that he's familiar with.
Yeah.
If he's able to do that, it will quell some of the questions and maybe allow Jimmy Garoppolo, even if he puts up his best game, right, and there's still the questions about whether Jimmy should be the guy, Jimmy will know deep down that he's the man for the job right now, that he's still got it. And maybe we start to see a little bit of glimmer and the aura returning, right? It's like he's like Hercules returning to Mount Olympus. The glow starts to come back. Demigod Jimmy starts to return, and maybe this team gets going in the right direction.
The only glow I would like to see from this guy is if he becomes Bruce Leroy and gets that going. But 100%, we need Jimmy Garoppolo to win. We need Jimmy Garoppolo to establish himself, but it will absolutely not quell any of the hate coming from 49ers Twitter.
What a shock.
It wouldn't matter if Jimmy Garoppolo got him to the playoffs and won playoff games. At this point, everyone is done with Jimmy Garoppolo in that category. It's unfortunate, but really what it needs to do is it needs to establish to that locker room that Jimmy Garoppolo is still the guy that can lead you, and he can still bridge the gap until you get to Trey Lance, take some of the pressure off Trey to get himself, better, quicker. and let this guy really create, and develop along the way. But let's see what Kyle Shanahan does, how he schemes it up. I think Jimmy can do it. I think the 49ers can win this football game. And when they do, they'll be right in the mix again. And then people like us can continue to talk about the 49ers football team making the playoffs. And that's what I'm excited for.
That's what I want. That's what we're all looking for, Cutback Crew. We know you are as well. Make sure you head on over to the Barroom Network. Give them some love. Give them a subscribe. Give them a like. They got incredible content over there. I know we enjoyed this conversation. We hope you did as well. And until the next one, stay safe.
And remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.